Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 29. I'm Tony, and my faith in superheroes is gone.
Yeah, and I am Jeff, and today we are talking about The Amazing Spider-Man, or maybe not so amazing Spider-Man. We'll get into that.
Spoilers!
You spoiled first,
I did.
So I feel like that's fine.
I did.
But, immediate opinion. Tony, I can tell you just love this game.
I was so disappointed. No, I don't think I would recommend this one.
I agree. I'm also a no. But with our, I guess, reviews out of the way.
Everybody can go home.
Yeah. End of episode. Wrap it up. We're good. But no. Tell us the back of the box. What did the devs and publisher think we should hear to convince us to play Spider-Man?
Okay. Well, as far as LJN wants us to know, The Amazing Spider-Man. So, you think the life of a Marvel superhero is an easy one? Wrong. Take Spider-Man, for example. While he's out protecting decent folk, a group of evil mutants kidnaps his wife and threaten to neutralize her if their demands aren't met. Now Spidey's got to get her back before something terrible happens. It won't be easy, though, because he's got the likes of Hobgoblin, Mysterio, Dr. Octopus, and some of Marvel's other favorite baddies standing in his way. So if you feel up to the challenge and you're ready for some serious wall crawling, make sure your web spinners are full and batteries fresh before you tackle this Game Boy adventure. We're sure you'll be playing this one for a long, long time. But let me tell you, that's false advertising.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree with the long, long time. But this game released in July of 1990. It was developed by Rare, but published by LJN Toys, which Tony had mentioned, which later became part of Acclaimed. So I was a little confused when I first saw that name, but they do make sense in the video game publishing space, I suppose. Tony, do you have much more background on it?
It's so funny to me that Rare exists in this like strange dichotomy of like weird bad licensed games and then the stuff that everybody remembers Rare from. Like all of the favorites of the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64 era or whatever, but like this is a Rare game. Okay.
Yeah.
That's sure something. LJN, that's not surprising. They put out all kinds of not great stuff in this time. Like they're kind of notorious for it, but like Rare.
Yeah, I mean, the other Rare game we've seen so far is Wizards and Warriors X, The Fortress of Fear. So
that makes so much sense.
It strangely does. And I think that's a great segue into the mechanics.
Yes, we need to talk about why those two games are far too similar.
All right, let's do it. All right. Mechanics breakdown. So the genre, beat 'em up action, maybe platformer, but beat 'em up action game, we'll say. Your goal is play as Spider-Man, and you're trying to save Mary Jane, which is your wife in this game. So I'm not well versed enough in Spider-Man to know which adaptation.
Don't even try.
Yeah, which adaptations have Mary Jane as the wife, which don't. In this case, Mary Jane is your wife, kidnapped by supervillains, and you're trying to save her. I'm going to do kind of a Rare bit right now. I'm going to refer to the manual for the controls because there are kind of a lot and they don't completely make sense. So I'm just going to read the manual as opposed to kind of summarizing them myself.
Sure.
Horizontal scrolling areas. Walk left or right, you press left or right. Crouch, hold down. Small jump, press A. Large jump, walk left or right and press A. Punch, tap B. Kick, hold down and tap B. Flying kick, jump and press B. Spin web, hold B. Swing from web, large jump and hold B. While swinging from a web, you can swing left or right, press left or right, kick, tap B, spin web, hold B, drop from web, press down. For vertically scrolling areas,
Jeez.
crawl left or right, up and down, kick, left or right, tap B, leap, left, right, or up, press A. Okay, so controls a little bit more intricate than we've seen, I think, thus far on any of these games, and I'm sure we'll kind of get into that later on in the mechanics, but before we do that, Tony, how was your gameplay? Did you defeat all the supervillains and save Mary Jane, or did you decide to shelve this game for a bit after playing for a while?
I did not beat it. My furthest attempt got me to the Rhino boss fight.
Okay.
So I think that's about like halfway through the game, something like that.
Yeah, 4 out of 6.
Right. So I saw a little bit of everything. I saw the wall climbing stage. I think there's more than one, but I saw one of them, and I did plenty of bashing of baddies and web swinging and stuff like that. I didn't enjoy it. The mechanics here are intricate is a good way to put it, because you can tell that they're like kind of trying. You know, they do give you kind of a lot of kit to work with.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that it's executed well at all.
I agree with that. I commend them for trying.
Sure.
I think it's going to be hard to not compare this directly to Batman, which we just played.
Of course.
But with Spider-Man, and I think this has always been one of my issues with Spider-Man games, is that Spider-Man, I feel his whole shtick is kind of being agile, kind of gymnastic.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is so hard to represent in a game format where everything is limited to, you know, relatively simplistic controls. Specifically on the Game Boy, you have a D-pad and a couple of buttons. So I can understand what they did and how they tried to fit all of that in. But to me, broadly, the game just felt very clunky and wasn't reminiscent of Spider-Man's agility and all of that.
No. And we're going to have to make two comparisons here. One to the Batman game and one to Wizards and Warriors. I'm going to start with something because Batman is fresh. We just, like you said, we just did Batman a couple episodes ago. This is a perfect example of why they might have done something with Batman the way that they chose to represent the Batman sprite, and how Batman had a gun and like shot the enemies instead of just doing punches or whatever. It definitely makes things like being able to fit multiple enemies on screen and having accurate collisions a lot easier to manage on the Game Boy when things are much smaller. Whereas here, the sprites are all easily like twice the size of the Batman sprite. And having that much on the screen, there's a lot of flickering. Collisions are absolutely atrocious.
The hitboxes are so bad.
Exactly. And to top it all off, the second comparison to Wizards and Warriors, there's no iframes. If you get hit, you just continue to take damage until you either stop the source of the damage or you move out of your own hurt box. And it extends even to falling down a pit. I think this is in my footage for anybody watching. I fell down a pit and then I instantaneously respawned in the sky, and I didn't move myself away from the pit enough, and I just fell down the pit again and died a second time. Like,
yeah.
How is that even acceptable?
Yeah, I hadn't really put together that it was a rare game while I was playing it. And as I was playing, I think a bird kind of flew past me and damaged me the entire time it was flying through me.
Yeah.
And it just felt so bad. And I remember thinking, wow, these hitboxes in this damage system really reminds me of something. But, you know, I was playing and didn't really put two and two together.
What could it be?
It's Wizards and Warriors X, 100%. That's very much so what it feels like. You're just taking damage for way longer than it feels like you should. And a very simple enemy encounter can end up taking half to 3/4 of your life if you're not careful. And that just seems so bad.
And it's everywhere. The enemies, they can do it if you like jump into a hiding spot where one of the enemies are like shooting at you from a distance, and you're trying to kick that enemy or something and you miss, but your hitbox still overlaps the enemy. You just start taking damage until you fix it.
Yeah.
When you get to the bosses.
Yeah. Let's put a pin.
Oh, okay.
I have quite a bit to say about the bosses, but yeah, the hit on contact, I feel like that just felt so bad here because your punching and kicking hitbox seems very limited. It is very short.
Yeah. Compared
to your hitbox as a sprite. So you have to get quite close to any enemy in order to actually punch or kick them or really deal damage to them. And the fact that all of the sprites have, hit on contact. If you walk into an enemy, it deals damage, even if they are not attacking. That just feels so bad. And that is carte blanche on every game ever. If you have a very short attack hitbox and then the enemies deal damage on contact, that's just a recipe for a game that feels very, very bad.
Yeah. I know that they tried to address this potentially by giving you a ranged weapon in like your web shooter that you can access, but it's got limited ammunition. So it's not like the Batman game where you can just shoot your little pellets the entire time.
Yeah.
If you're out of web bullets or whatever, you are back to square one. And honestly, the punch that you can do, similarly to games like Fist of the North Star, the punch is just worthless. If you're not kicking, you're getting your butt kicked, is pretty much how it works. The entire time I was either jump kicking or crouch kicking, or basically not even fighting enemies at all. I was just running away. I was just moving right past them because it was not worth it. I was going to end up taking more damage than I was going to deal out. And the only thing that you really get for knocking the enemies out is what looks like jewelry that counts for points or whatever. Pff, who could care? Like, at least in Batman, the enemies weren't really dropping stuff. The power-ups were just hidden in the stages themselves. That's not how it is here. The enemies will just like randomly drop things, and most of it is just for points.
Yeah. So this is, I guess, a version of Spider-Man that has non-organic web slingers.
Sure.
So I guess you do have the little capsules that you have to replace and all of that. So fair enough, whatever. Like, that's actually the first Spider-Man that I watched. So cool. But yeah, you have to hold B to shoot the web, which in and of itself is kind of clunky. And then the web doesn't do much damage, at least as far as I could tell. It seemed like the web did maybe a quarter, 10% of the damage of a kick or a punch. So it really felt kind of pointless to even try to do that. And like you said, it then runs down your web, so you can't web sling.
Yeah.
And there are places where that is very beneficial to be able to web sling, so you don't want to just spam and waste your web fluid.
I didn't even really use the web shooter basically for my entire game. Like, it just didn't feel worth it to do. Let me digress for a moment. The web slinging here is also not handled very well. When you are trying to sling across the ceiling of any level, it's not like it feels awful once you're actually in the air, because then you're just kind of moving horizontally, but just without having to worry about stuff on the ground, essentially.
Yeah. And
that's fine. But getting from the ground to the web slinging position, and especially the dismount, are awful. They put you in such a vulnerable position and make it so that you can get hit really easily. They're extremely finicky on getting from the ground to the air, and I fell in pits or missed jumps and landed on enemies or whatever plenty of times just because I didn't connect to get my line up to the ceiling or whatever, I thought it was automatic at first because it felt so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was just missing something, and it was like, oh, if you jump in the air and you're too close to the ceiling, it's just automatically web swinging. But no, it's not. Like, there is actually a mechanical function that you're supposed to do to make yourself start web swinging manually, and it does not feel that way.
Agreed. Again, this is probably the most advanced controls that have been jammed into a game that we've played. But I also think, yeah, they just weren't intuitive. There's one part of my footage that I thought about taking out, but I'm going to leave in, where I'm stuck at a double box for probably 30 seconds to a minute, trying to jump over it. And what you have to do is a large jump. And at that point, I knew that I could do a large jump. I knew that sometimes I jump higher than other times. I just couldn't figure out how to do it. What you're supposed to do is walk left or right and press A. The issue is you have to be walking for a certain amount of time before it will register.
Yes.
And that amount of time is much longer than feels necessary or feels correct. Even after I realized what the mechanic was, there were a lot of times that I didn't do it correctly because I just didn't walk for long enough. And I feel like that is a bad mechanic or a bad control when, one, it's not intuitive, and two, there's some like arbitrary amount that feels too long to make the mechanic work.
I literally had the same thing happen. It wasn't on a box. I think it was on like a log in like a tree level, the Central Park level or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like a tree stump or something. And I also got stuck and just could not get out of this area because you can't walk left. Like, once you have scrolled the screen, it doesn't scroll back. So I had scrolled the screen far enough and missed the jump.
Oh.
And so there was not enough space to like build up the momentum.
You were like soft locked. Yeah.
I managed to get out. Don't ask me how. I managed to do the jump and clear the log or whatever. But yeah, I almost soft locked myself because I could not get myself out of this, basically this pit that I had ended up in. And it was at that moment too that I also started to think like, is this supposed to be like a momentum platformer? Because it's Spider-Man? Are they trying to make it seem like, yeah, you don't actually need to fight all these bad guys. You're just supposed to be running and jumping as fast and as accurately as you can.
That would almost make sense.
Yeah, like if there are times where you can potentially get yourself stuck because you no longer have the space or the momentum to jump and clear whatever hurdle is in the way, or jump high enough to the ceiling to do your web slinging, then what else is it supposed to be? I mean, it's not a good one if that's what they were going for, but it just is another point on the checklist of like things that they were trying to put into this game, and it just really didn't work out.
And I guess we promised talk of the bosses.
Yes.
To your point, I feel like the bosses were
awful,
not fun or rewarding. You know, in Batman, Jack and the Joker, you know, they kind of just shot their gun and walked back and forth. So not the most enthralling gameplay, but fine. You know, it fit the game. Here, I feel like every boss just kind of has one thing that you can hit them when they're doing, and then otherwise you just don't. And I don't know, they just, the first time you experience them, you just take damage and lose a couple of lives because you're trying to figure out what they do. And then once you figure out what they do, they're extremely trivial, and it is just repeat doing this one thing over and over again. And that is like the worst of all cases in bosses, in my opinion. Like,
oh yeah,
I'm all for having to learn a boss, kind of Dark Souls style, figure out their movements and figure out when you can punish and all of that. This is not that.
No. This
is not a rewarding experience learning them. It just felt tedious to me. And every single one. It wasn't like, oh, the Hobgoblin was, this way, but Rhino was really interesting. No, they all felt the same way. In a game where you're essentially just going from boss to boss to boss to, kind of, it feels like throw all of them in so they all have their screen time. The bosses that should be kind of the main event just felt silly and stupid.
Yeah. Basically, you were just deciphering the exploit that you needed to get through each boss.
Exactly.
You weren't learning a cool pattern. You weren't probing for weak points. Most of them you can't even actually do damage to unless they're in like a specific position or like a state of attack or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't do anything to really let you know that that's happening. Like, it's not like their sprite really changes or they get like a special aura or like any kind of sound notification, like nothing. It's just, oh, you can't hit it right now. And you try, well, you're going to be taking damage the entire time, stupid. Like,
yeah.
It felt so bad. It was so annoying.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the Scorpion boss fight, when he does his attack, he just like sticks his tail spike out and like wiggles it around at you or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you hit him, even if you've got your little spider foot sticking out, you take damage. As soon as he's done, he does a jump, and that's when you're supposed to hit him. You have to jump and meet him in the air and kick him as he's doing a jump. And as soon as you know that, literally all you do for that entire fight is stand in one spot, watch him wiggle his tail, wait for him to jump, and you kick him. And then you just keep doing it over and over and over again until it's through. Like, it is the most rote, boring.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It's awful.
The way I beat him is I kind of jumped over him and kicked him in the back when he was doing his little tail wiggle thing.
Huh.
But most of the bosses, it felt like you were cheesing them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was just, I'm pretty sure that was the intended way to beat the bosses.
Yep.
That is...
It's bad.
We can go on about this all day.
Yeah, exactly.
All the bosses are like that, and it's not a fun or rewarding gameplay in my experience. So let's cool down with a nice little ad break, and then we'll get back to the creative discussion.
Yes, let's. Ad break.
Mama, did they ever make a Sonic game on the Game Boy?
No, afraid not, dude.
What about a Rayman game?
They did, but it's a Game Boy Color exclusive.
Ugh.
Sorry, kiddo, but Critical DMG is supposed to cover all the North American games on the original Game Boy, and in chronological order, too. That means we'll be talking about the ones you don't already know.
Well, was there at least a Mega Man game?
Yeah, a few of them.
Yay! I'll definitely listen to those episodes when they come out.
Great. The show should get to the first one sometime in 2028.
But that's so long from now.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Let's hear some of those new ad ideas you wanted to run by me.
Yeah, okay. How about listen to Critical DMG free? What are you waiting for?
A little aggressive, don't you think? What else do you have?
We're 95% fat-free and with no preservatives. Thank goodness for Critical DMG.
No, I think it's safe to say that neither of us are preservative or fat-free.
Critical DMG. It's the most exciting thing you can do with the inside of a cake.
Come on, we're not Betty Crocker over here. That doesn't even make sense. We just want to tell people to listen to Critical DMG if they want fun, lighthearted discussion about games on the Game Boy. From two best friends old enough to remember playing these games when they released, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. And we're back.
Spidey back.
Spidey back. Speaking of Spidey, they have the Spider-Man theme song at the start of this game.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it's a nice like little mix of it. It's not like a one-to-one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little bit of a remix, at least from what I could tell. And it was quite nice. And so booted up the game, and the title screen looked quite nice. The sprite of Spider-Man on the title screen looked good. It had the Spider-Man music. I was kind of pumped. And then we won't get back into the mechanics. But I quite liked the title music.
Yeah, I mean, it sure is foreboding that in the Batman game, once you get past all of the title screen stuff and it shows you Batman and he's this adorable little like Matchbox figure, I loved that. And that game was good. And then you get past the Spider-Man stuff here, and Spider-Man in this game looks like he's suffering from the same kind of back pain that I do. And that's probably saying something bad and ominous for how the game was going to go, because he's just kind of like slouching through New York or whatever. Forget acrobatics. This guy, needs to just stand up straight.
Has arthritis and scoliosis. I agree. You get into it and, initially you're greeted with a pretty good looking cutscene, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're all right.
Some of them better than others, which we'll talk about.
Yes.
Spider-Man in the cutscenes, pretty good. And I do appreciate that his eyes kind of change.
Yes, they do have the eye slits like change shape as he, emotes on the phone.
Yeah, which, one, how do they all have each other's phone numbers? Like, what?
Oh my god, I was thinking the same thing. I thought they were walkie-talkies at first because they look like these friggin' giant, chunky, like, camping style walkie-talkies or something. But they specifically, at the beginning, Mysterio calls Spider-Man, and Spider-Man picks up the phone and says, Parker residence.
Yeah.
And Mysterio's like, har, don't try to play dumb with me, Spider-Man. I know it's you. So, like, they call him on his landline phone at his house. And then, like, what are they all just on a party line or something?
Yeah.
And they're all just like, yeah, wouldn't take that, Spider-Man.
Yeah, they all get, like, the red pages, the yellow pages for super villains and superheroes. Like, why everyone has each other's numbers, very questionable. I also put that they were walkie-talkies because
they look like it.
Yeah, that's literally what they look like. I've also never understood how Spider-Man's eyes move. Because, it's just like a neoprene mask or a stretchy mask that is over his head.
You're going to get so many comic book nerds in the comments that are just going to explain this to you.
Hopefully.
In so much detail.
Please do. If you...
we can only hope.
Yes, like, I understand the, I guess, MCU Spider-Man, whatever, microbots or something. If you can explain to me how the OG Spider-Man's eyes changed, please do. I'm very interested in it. But I did like the cutscenes. I thought those were pretty good for the most part. And then, yeah, you get into the game and Spider-Man's sprite, it just feels too big for what it should be.
Though every sprite here is enormous.
Yeah. And then despite being as big as it is, they somehow don't represent Spider-Man very well at all. No. And it was really just kind of a letdown.
Yeah, like, that's what I was saying about Dinky Batman. It still looks like Batman. Like, you can still tell, even at the small size that it is, like, it looks like Batman. And for the size that they made Spider-Man here, they don't really include much detail apart from that the eyes on the mask, look like Spider-Man's, but like, it's obviously not colored in a way that makes the suit look like Spider-Man. And because of the perspective that they have him walking in, you can't see like the Spider-Man emblem on the suit. And there's no way that they were doing the kind of like patterning to make it look like webs on that extremely skinny body that they did for Spider-Man. It just very disappointing. I really wish that they would have gone with a more like squashed and stretched Spider-Man, like, chibi style Spider-Man. That is usually one of the ways that things like superheroes or like humanoid characters do tend to work a little bit better. on the Game Boy instead of the like really tall and lanky ones like they did here. But it's not just Spider-Man that looks bad because of it. All of the enemies and stuff, they look really kind of just nondescript. You know, it's all the same enemy pretty much the entire time.
Yeah.
Apart from some like birds, and the lizard is just like popping out of every sewer, which I don't understand how that keeps happening. Like he must just not have anything else to do.
Or these sewers are just overrun by random lizard men. Yeah, I was very confused as to why, yeah, the birds in the park all seem to hate you and want to hurt you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've been to Central Park. The pigeons are not that aggressive. You know, they're not magpies. They're not anything like that. So I don't know. Them swooping you seems a little interesting.
Sure.
I don't know if you saw Mary Jane, but once you beat the game, you know, you save Mary Jane, yay, your wife. Her sprite is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, she has seen better days. I mean, obviously she, I guess, had just been kidnapped or whatever, but she's in like go-go boots and like wearing nylons with this like spiky hip length hair or whatever. I don't know what is going on. Definitely looks more like an X-Men character they just never told you about than it does Mary Jane, I guess Mary Jane Parker.
Oh, yeah. Again, she was just kidnapped. But her face is really what throws me off. The way that they represented her face was just 3 black pixels for her eyes and her mouth. And, you know, I feel like that is a little...
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It is so horrifically funny. Like, it just... If they would have taken that same character and instead of making her, I mean, 2 or 3 times as tall as the Batman sprite,
yeah,
they could have reduced the height and then spread out the width of the sprite and put more detail into the face and hair and like the body and clothes instead of like, I don't even know what they were going for here, honestly. And looking at her side by side with the Spider-Man, it's even worse than I guess I thought while I was playing it. Looking at it as a static image, he looks like the biker from Motocross Maniacs. Like this just looks, it doesn't look like a Spider-Man game. It looks like this is what happens after the guy from Motocross Maniacs like won the race. A bunch of biker thugs stole his girlfriend and he had to go track him down and beat him up and get her back.
Yeah.
Like totally different game because this does not look like Spider-Man and Mary Jane.
Agreed. Yeah, his eye kind of looks like a visor.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
To your point, he's kind of at like a 30-degree angle for some reason.
Yes.
Like his torso just is bent forward. So I don't know. I can appreciate what they were trying for. I can somewhat appreciate the fact that these are sprites that we haven't seen before. We haven't seen sprites in kind of like this proportion. I don't know. I just feel like they missed the mark and it's a little unfortunate.
Yeah. One of my favorite sprites is in some of the areas with like windows, like open windows. So like the wall climbing scene, specifically like where it's all of a sudden like a vertical wall crawling segment or whatever.
When I was stuck on that box for way too long, or a double box, I was like, Spider-Man can literally climb on walls. Why can I not climb on this wall behind me or climb on this box?
Yes,
but
exactly.
There are wall crawling sections. So
in the sections with the windows that are open, they're just like baked pies sitting on the windows that Spider-Man can eat to get his health back or something. And I just thought that was so funny.
A little, I guess, reverse quiz. I'll give you 3 guesses. They're not pies. What do you think those actually are?
Oh, man. A sub sandwich.
Close.
Oh, okay. Is it a type of sandwich?
I would say it is a type of sandwich, yes.
Is it calzone?
No. I don't think I would consider a calzone a type of sandwich.
It's a closed-in thing with meat and cheese on the inside.
It is. A hot dog is a sandwich, so...
No, that's true. It's not a hot dog, is it?
No, it's closer to a hot dog than a calzone, but I'll give you one more guess.
A hamburger.
It is a hamburger, yeah.
I thought it was a pie.
Allegedly, it is a hamburger. That is what I saw. I can't find anything in the manual that confirms that. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say they don't tell you really anything about the pickups or anything at all in the manual.
according to the internet, yeah, it's a hamburger.
Huh.
Which he is just stealing from people, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just leaving him out on their windowsill. It's like old cartoon rules. Like, you leave it at pie on the windowsill, all the neighborhood hooligans are going to come and steal that pie.
Yeah, I guess.
So, you might have noticed that we haven't really spoken about the sound effects here, and it's because I literally have nothing to say about them at all.
Yeah.
I barely noticed, and the ones that I did notice were bad. Lots of just trilling and squeaking, and there's no hit register type sounds to make it feel like you're actually doing the damage. I know the enemies will kind of like grunt or groan or whatever when they're defeated, but like it was just an entire nothing. The sound didn't do anything to help this game's case in any way. I was already not enjoying so much of it that the sound being bad didn't necessarily make it worse.
Yeah, you know, it's a little unfortunate because I feel like Spider-Man has so many like nice web sounds,
Sure.
and none of those existed.
Nope.
The last thing I do have is they kind of did Scorpion dirty.
Yeah, he's awful here.
Yeah, he just looks bad, and his sprites are bad. In the cutscene, he looks bad.
Uh-huh.
All of the other ones look pretty decent. I feel like Scorpion just, yeah, they did him a little dirty, but
Yeah, that I noticed that too, especially his attack, like we had said, is literally just like the bat, like spiny part of his tail just like sticking out a couple extra inches and like twisting menacingly at you or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and roll us into the wrap up here. It's not worth the batteries. I did not enjoy this, and that's a real shame because I do like Spider-Man. They tried to do a lot, I think. They really kind of pushed out the envelope on this kind of like action, beat 'em up, platformer game here on the Game Boy, and I have to give them credit for that. The sprites are big, the cutscenes are, you know, cute and well delivered with lots of, you know, zippy Spider-Man one-liners and, you know, name calling and stuff like that. And they tried to give you a lot of options for things that Spider-Man can do, but it just didn't come together. And so there's no way that I could confidently recommend this for someone else to play.
Yeah, I think that nails my thoughts on the head completely.
Same brain.
Yeah, it had some of that feel and charm of Spider-Man in the cutscenes, but the gameplay just didn't deliver and didn't make me really feel like this was fun and an enjoyable experience. So I agree, not worth the batteries. Go play Batman, even though personally I like Spider-Man a lot more than Batman, but
Exactly. Like, the Batman is such a perfect comparison, especially because we just played it a little while ago. That game has Batman with a gun and he's shooting all of the bad guys, which is very not Batman. But the cutscenes look great and the level design looks like the places that Batman would go, and the enemies look like your typical Batman kind of goons and robots and whatever else. So like,
and there was a story behind it. This game really felt like it was just this supervillain's calling me.
Right.
This supervillain's calling me. This, you know.
right.
Like, yes, the end goal was to get Mary Jane, but it felt like a plug for all of the different supervillains.
Yeah.
And there was no progression in the game aside from I'm fighting this next villain. And that also didn't add to the experience at all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Well, that's enough of that. It's time for the quiz.
Time for the quiz. Currently sitting at 78.7%. So 79, just below a B, 80%.
I mean, let's hope the quiz goes better than the game. Anyway, question 1. Instead of a movie, this superhero game is most likely based on the comics more directly than anything else in Spider-Man's canon at the time. In the back of the game's own manual, there's even a special coupon that you could cut out and mail with a check all the way to the Big Apple, just to get yourself a bundle of Spidey comics. For $4.50 USD, apparently 50% off the newsstand price, this deal would get you 9 full issues of either Uncanny X-Men, The Punisher, or Amazing Spider-Man comic books. But what about today? With the Amazing Spider-Man series still going, or going again, as of 2025, is it true or false that the $4.50 you'd need for these 9 discounted issues back in the 1990s wouldn't even buy you a single issue of Spider-Man off the shelf today?
Oh, that has to be true.
It is.
I was like, a comic now has to be more than $4.50.
It is true. The Amazing Spider-Man series actually started its next era in April of 2025 with its 7th #1 issue.
Ooh.
While it does have something like half a dozen or so variant covers that I didn't bother to look up the prices for, the going price for an off-the-shelf copy of any of the new Amazing Spider-Man comic books is $5.99 USD. So not only would you not be able to buy a single issue of Spider-Man with your $4.50 these days, you need more than 4 times that much to get that same 9-issue deal, even if you account for the same 50% discount.
Yeah, I saw that in the back of the manual, and I was just like, wow, $4.50 is insane for this. The only comic books I've purchased were from Disney, or actually Universal, I guess, which I understand, highly inflated.
Of course.
But when they had kind of their like Marvel world there, I got, I think, a Black Panther and maybe like an X-Men. I don't know. I got 2 comic books and I think, yeah, it was like $25 or something like that.
Woof.
Yeah. So anyway, little aside of young Jeff comic life.
We love it. That's what they're here for. That's what the quiz section is for. Come on. All right. Question 2. Still on the topic of the Amazing Spider-Man comics, the storyline in the Game Boy game may well be taking plenty of inspiration from actual Marvel storylines for the series during the 1990s. In Amazing Spider-Man issue number 335, which has a cover date of July 1990, which is the same time that this game was released, Spider-Man villain Dr. Octopus is in the process of gathering classic Spidey villains for his reformed Sinister Six. Wow, that is hard for me to say. Sinister Six.
You did a great job.
Some of them we see in the game we just played, but not all of these villains made their appearance for us here. Which of these Spider-Man villains shows up in the Amazing Spider-Man Game Boy game, but not in the comic issue that released in that same month? Is it A, Rhino, B, Hobgoblin, C, Mysterio, or D, Dr. Octopus?
I feel like all of those would have shown up. I'm gonna go with Rhino, maybe?
Good. You should,
right.
because that's the right answer.
Thank you for not letting me overthink that one.
I saved you. Yeah, it couldn't be Dr. Octopus because he's the one doing it in the first
Obviously,
place. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Rhino. So while only partway through getting the whole gang back together, Dr. Octopus spends issue 335 of Amazing Spider-Man trying to recruit Hobgoblin and Mysterio to his new Sinister Six. And while Shocker is on the loose in this storyline as well, he wasn't in our game.
Nope.
Instead, we got Rhino, Scorpion, and Venom, the first 2 of which have been in different Sinister Six lineups throughout Spider-Man history, but Venom never formally has, at least not for very long, and usually not in like mainline continuity. Comic fans, don't at me about it.
All right, doing all right. So hopefully question 3 treats me well.
Spider-Man will save you.
Hopefully Spider-Man will save me.
Okay, question 3. Spider-Man wasn't making any kind of debut video game appearance with this game being released on the Game Boy. Like Batman, there had actually already been a handful of Spider-Man games on other things before this one came out. More interesting to me, though, is that this Game Boy outing wasn't the only Spider-Man game released in 1990. The Commodore 64 and Amiga got their own game, and even though the Spider-Man sprite in that game is just as slouchy and weird as this one was, the gameplay isn't quite the same. Instead of a linear beat-em-up, this game is more of an open-type puzzle platformer, with one very notable difference in how Spider-Man gets around. What is it? A. No matter the level, Spider-Man is always web-swinging. B. Spider-Man doesn't punch or kick, only shooting web blasts at enemies. C. When you move against walls, Spider-Man can actually climb them. Or D. He gets a rad spider cycle and can fly when you go up ramps.
Oh, clearly Spider Cycle.
No, it's the correct answer, not the one you want to happen.
I want a Spider Cycle. I'm gonna go with he can't punch or kick and can only shoot webs. My rationale is I feel like that is part of our gripe with this game is they tried to add too much. So if they had eliminated one of those two, I feel like it may have been a smoother gameplay experience.
Actually, hold on a second, because that's technically correct. Like, looking at my own question, because he doesn't punch or kick and he does shoot web blasts.
Technically correct is the best type of correct.
But the answer is C. So I think I might have to just give it to you.
All right, I'll take it.
Technically, looking at my own answers here, technically, he doesn't punch or kick and he does shoot web blasts, but they don't do damage or anything. They just stop the enemies from moving around. The real difference here is that in this game, Spider-Man actually wall crawls. Since it's more of a single screen puzzle platformer than like a walking across the screen beat 'em up type game, Spider-Man is actually given the freedom of movement to not only climb walls and ceilings, but he can actually use his web to like pull himself to walls from across the level. It actually gives Spider-Man like a lot more of the movement stuff that we were kind of lamenting not being in the game that we played.
Yeah.
Which is nice, but from the footage that I watched of somebody else getting through it, it looks way too slow and tedious for me to actually want to give it a try.
Oh.
Because you're not fighting any enemies or anything. You're basically just like going from screen to screen, like turning switches on and riding elevators and stuff like that.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too fun. But I'll take the win on the technicality.
There you go.
I'm going to count it. So that brings me up to 79.5. So if you're generous, that's an 80%. So first time back into the B range for a while.
Yay! Spider-Man brought it to you.
The friendly neighborhood spider did me better than Batman. So at least
it's true.
You know, at least Batman's game was better. Spider-Man's quiz was better. I guess we can call it even there.
That's true. That's true.
But remind us of Shanghai's listener question.
So the Shanghai question was about how after Activision had launched their own version of Shanghai on personal computers in the late 1980s, the game spread around to lots of other computers and consoles over the years. The version that I grew up with was the one that was packaged with like early Windows computers, and it was called Taipei. A newer version might be one that some other listeners are more familiar with and has actually been re-released a couple different times over the years, all of which have been on the Nintendo systems, starting with the DS and then working all the way up to the Switch. And I wanted to know what game that was. Or game series, I guess. Jeff?
Mahjong.
No, it's not just Actually, I think this series only included the Mahjong Solitaire, I don't think any of them include actual Mahjong.
Oh, yeah, I feel like that would be difficult to put in.
Usually Mahjong games get their own thing. No, these are the Clubhouse games.
Okay.
So they are pretty well regarded. It's got things like Mahjong Solitaire, Old Maid, checkers, backgammon, dominoes, darts, those kinds of games. And in the Nintendo Switch release, which is the most recent to date one that came out back in 2020, it contains 51 games. So it was aptly named Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics.
Fair enough. But what is Spider-Man's listener question?
So for Spider-Man, despite the fact that the villains in The Amazing Spider-Man for the Game Boy are all talking to Spider-Man with what are clearly walkie-talkies, the fact that they call him at the Parker residence and know who he is suggests that these chunky beasts are actually landline telephones. The 90s was definitely a time with some formidably sized phones, to be sure, but it was also a time for wild novelty model phones as well. One particular Spider-Man model of phone from 1994 actually goes for a pretty reasonable price on the secondhand market. I can't imagine why, but I'm not really interested in the price. What I want to know is which iteration of Spider-Man this phone is specifically supposed to be modeling with its giant plastic Spidey figure. Jeff?
If I could name more than one iteration of Spider-Man, that would be impressive. So I don't know.
That's fair. There are a lot of them.
Yeah, but again, if you're a spider expert, let us know what we've gotten wrong, all of those fun things, because I'm sure there has been a bit. Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/criticaldmgpod. Join us there for monthly newsletters and extra content. Otherwise, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe recommend us to your friends or anyone else you might think that would like the show. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it. I think that brings us to an end of The Amazing Spider-Man for now. We will see him again later in our journey through the Game Boy titles, but for now, we are done with superheroes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we're actually going to have another Batman game at some point, too.
Yeah, I think the next one that we're going to see is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Kind of excited about that, but that's not until later.
What's next?
Yeah, join us next week when we talk about Bases Loaded. Back into the world.
I didn't look ahead of time.
Back into the world of sports. So can this one...
It can't be as bad as baseball. It cannot. I am saying it right now. Here live on the show right now. I am going on record to say that it will not be as bad as baseball.
Don't put that evil on us. We don't know. But join us next week and see if Bases Loaded can redeem baseball for us.
Yep, hold me to it, everybody. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.